This is Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Yes, sir. Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Don't look for no TV, ma. Skyfire News. This is Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Yes, sir. Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Don't look for no TV, ma. Skyfire News. This is Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Skyfire News. Yes, sir. Skyfire News.
Not a hoax. That is real out there. Gray in color.
Skyfire News is on the internet.
What up, everybody? Welcome to Skyfire News. live. We have an amazing show tonight planned for you guys. Actually, I forgot it's midday. This is the earliest show we've done over here on the West Coast, but we're talking to Patrick Jackson, who's been referenced by Gary Nolan and so many more people in reference to this particular theory, which is it's a sphere network. It's a network of these like spheres that maybe patrol the skies and look for invasive things like UFOs and whatnot. So like, I know that sounds kind of wild, but if you've been following me or Patrick Jackson for any amount of time, you know that there's a lot of evidence about this. There's a lot. I mean, when I first looked back into the historical record of like what this stuff, what kind of stuff Patrick was referencing, it blew my mind that these things were there. I mean, he's shown photos that you've seen. If you've been into UFOs for any amount of time, you've probably seen all the historical images that are there. Well, right under our noses, there were these formation of these like little spherical balls of like, you know, varying sizes constantly around these UFOs. And it gets deeper than that, if you can imagine. So we have Patrick Jackson himself here to tell us about this. We got Red Panda here to help us walk us through all the evidence that we have of this stuff. So we prepared the show for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, let's get Red Panda in the mix. Red, welcome to the show.
What up? I'm Gray Panda Koala today. Mobile, but excited. This is an interesting topic.
I love it. Skinny Bob, Gray Panda. I love it. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is wild. Red, where were you when you first heard about this theory?
I want to say it was like a year ago or so when Ross Coulthart did that thing. I've heard of the Bet Sphere, and there was that San Diego sphere that It's Redacted did a good video about. But this whole theory that it's like a network and they're always traveling in threes, I don't think I learned until probably like the last year or so. What about you?
Same. I had a friend on Twitter, back when it was Twitter, that's how long ago I heard about this, hit me up and said, hey, it was like midnight. He's like, you need to talk to this dude, Patrick Jackson. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so like I held a space and he popped in, and Patrick was awesome. Walked me through all of his research. I got a chance to really get introduced to the topic there. And then over the course of time, I got to see his work being referenced by people like Gary Nolan. And I was very like, okay, there's something to this. It's not just this idea. I honestly think a lot of it goes beyond theory because you have all these images and references to it. But yeah, so I think that was October 2022, maybe, when I first heard about it. So it's been a little while. And Patrick's been working on this for a hot minute. He had a book that came out around 2019, 2020, and he started working on it in 2015. So imagine having that idea, that theory, that evidence, sitting on it and trying to work its way out. Like, that's a journey in and of itself. But ladies and gentlemen, we have Patrick Jackson here. Patrick, welcome to the stage, man. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Hello, Patrick.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Excited to talk to you.
Keeping it mobile out here. Now, Patrick, where are you from?
Cambridge in UK.
Born and raised out there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's no shortage of like spooky kind of historical places out there. A lot of history, which kind of leads itself into like, you know, the paranormal research that you kind of do as well. Did your background at all in that area lead you to looking this stuff up? Or were you ever interested in this stuff growing up?
Not really, no. I didn't really get interested until I was in my early 20s. I mean, I suppose I had like a minor interest in UFOs, but nothing special. And what actually happened was I just went to the local, like a social club, and I was sitting on the swing waiting for the pub to open. And I just happened to look over to the left, and I saw this guy standing in the middle of the field dressed as a monk. And I was like, what's that? So I started shouting at him for a laugh, and then he didn't respond. He just stood there like a statue. And then I had a laser in my pocket, so I put a laser beam on him, and it hit his chest and his face, or basically like he had a hood up. It was all black, and I put a laser right in its face, and still no response. So I just got up and started walking towards it. And I got within like 10 or so feet of it, or 10, yeah, about 10 feet, and it just disappeared. And I'd never seen anything like that before in my life, and it just kind of intrigued me. And then I actually went to the social club itself, and I said, I just think I saw like a monk or something across the field. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's the mad monk. He haunts here." And
Oh,
I
they knew
never
all.
heard that story
They knew
before,
all
yeah.
about it.
No, I never knew about it at all. And after that, I mean, that's what kind of woke me up, because although it didn't scare me at all, really, I didn't really know what it was I was looking at. It started kind of bugging me, because I kind of wanted to try and figure out what I was looking at or what's going on. And it just kept on bugging me. And in the end, my day job is basically databases, and a lot of things were reverse engineering and stuff like that. And
Really?
it's like, I was like, okay, well, let me just have a go at to see if I can figure this out, you know. And so I picked on a place called 30 East Drive, which is the most haunted, most violent poltergeist in the UK. And I've invited professors to come. I've invited debunkers to come, some very famous ones, and they all refuse. So I end up going in there. And back in 2015, I really made an effort of it, and I kind of identified the root cause of it, or at least I came up with a working model of what was happening. And then the book came out, and then since then it's been going from strength to strength, and more people have been testing my stuff, and more things happen, and it links to other stuff, and it keeps on growing. And now it's what I kind of figured out back in 2015 is now being seen all over the world, pretty much on a weekly basis.
And when you say it's been seen, you're referring to the Sphere network.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that from the paranormal? And I do agree. Like every few weeks, there's a new video of like three spheres flying around. It's like, oh, Patrick was right again.
So what it is when I was doing my studying, I noticed the poltergeist activity is computer-like. It keeps repeating the same patterns in the same places as well. You can actually trigger it as well. You just have to know the right parameters, and you can trigger poltergeist activity multiple times a night. And I've done demonstrations of that. It's all in videos on my Twitter or X, and I've got it all on CCTV, and it's all there. And what I figured out was there's actually these small little drones, like what I call Type 3 spheres. And they're literally the size of baseballs. They're tiny. They're literally like this. And people see them in the buildings all the time. In fact, I was there last week or two, and we got CCTV camera footage, IR camera. And you see one flying through the ceiling and does a U-turn and does a spiral and goes back up again. And then you can see this actually in the camera above, which is in the bedroom, and you can see it flying around in the bedroom. So it can actually go through walls and stuff. This is what was observed during World War II with the Foo Fighters. It's exactly the same process. It's called quantum tunneling. Other people call it transmedium and stuff like that, but it's effectively where a solid object can go through a solid barrier and come through the other end.
They call this ball lightning.
Yeah, it's been
Back in the day.
misidentified as ball lightning. Yeah.
But
It's because
in World War II, I mean, they started going around with planes.
The ball lightning emits atomic light. Atomic light is when you have a high energy source in a gas environment, which energizes the gas molecules, which then produces photons, which is atomic light. It's a very pure kind of light, you know. The only difference is that in nature there is nothing that is stable or constant. It's in a constant state of flux. So what you'll get, like in lightning, you'll get a big lightning flash, then lots of little lightning flashes. But ball lightning, or what they call ball lightning, you get a constant. And the only way you can be constant is if the power source is artificial, because constant doesn't exist in nature, not in that respect anyway. So what's happening is that with the spheres themselves, they have a high energy propulsion system. It emits a high energy field around it, which energizes the gas molecules, which then produces light. So what you have is a silver ball, but the actual air around it is glowing. And then from a distance, all you see is a big glowing object, big glowing ball.
A lot of these are reported to have like a plasma sheath around them, some type of like a
Well,
plasma
it
appearance.
looks like plasma, yeah. It does look like plasma. But it is effectively just ionized. It's just highly energized gas molecules.
Now, I'm sure the audience is dying to see what these things could look like, what these things are, right? Let's get into the slides. Let's start to show people what these things look like, and probably how often would they get seen.
Okay, let's run through it. Let's see. So there's the intro.
There's your book. Where can we find it?
It's on Amazon.
There it is.
And I actually recommend getting the ebook because it's free to read with a membership. The black and white one is about £9. The color one's a bit more expensive because of Amazon's printing costs and stuff. But I recommend the ebooks actually just as good.
Awesome.
And you go into the paranormal stuff and the Sphere Network in this book?
Yeah. Also how to trigger it, how it's triggered, how it operates. All this stuff is like when I was growing up, I used to watch a lot of magic shows and stuff, and I used to try and figure out how they used to do the illusions. David Copperfield and all that stuff. I used to spend hours doing it. But once you see the first sort of slip of the hand and the first kind of, the thing they do, the whole trick opens up and you start seeing other stuff. And it's exactly the same with poltergeists, the same thing with the spheres. Once you actually get through the first barrier, it just opens up like a kind of like a big can. You to see it, how it all interconnects.
Nice.
It's like
so,
that.
yeah.
Oh, there it is, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
But it
And this
reminds
is your
me,
website.
dude, we're gonna plug the heck out of that website. But Gary Nolan referenced this weird visual experiment video all the time. This idea of count how many times a basketball has passed between people on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while you're watching that, a gorilla walks through the scing, and no one ever notices him because
That's right.
everyone's watching is so looking at the task, which is to count the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when people are told, "Did you see the gorilla?" I was one of the people who was like, "I did not see one, and I do not believe there ever was one." I had to watch it again to really be convinced. And he references a lot, like who out there can see this thing, who's noticed this thing. Is he hinting at your work?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we do have a Gary Nolan slide coming up here because I do want to dig into like how y'all got acquainted, right? Because both him, as Tupa said in the beginning, and Ross Coulthart have mentioned your work. Pretty big names in the field, but let's go ahead and continue. Or actually, wait, real quick. You do this website with another person, correct? Who is that?
Say again, sorry, quite catch that. Sorry.
There's another person who you run this website with, correct? Like your partner in investigation, it seems.
Well, kind of. I mean, when I wrote the book, there's only one person who I knew of, who had done a test or a material analysis on spheres, and that was Steve Corbin. And he did the Mexico sphere, and he did a full material analysis on that. And that's actually in the back of the book.
Nice, that's cool. There's a Sphere Network. All right. So this was just like I saw in an article. This was some examples from history. Do you have any thoughts on these?
Yeah, these are the Type 3s. So the Type 3s operate in buildings. They produce like a dynamic network that spans across countries. They don't just use buildings, but they use anything like bridges as well, caves, tunnels. Anything that really shields their electronic emissions and where they're kind of left on their own, out of the way. So what these things here, if you map all the most haunted houses in the UK, most aggressive poltergeist buildings, you'll find that they operate in lines and clusters. which are of similar distance apart. And what it appears to be is these spheres are using a microwave-based uplink. So they're linking to each other as a dynamic network through microwave transmissions, because it's line of sight. So it goes point to point. In fact, when you look at the map and you compare it to, say, our own microwave-based long-haul relays, they pretty much look identical in their architecture. So what they do is they operate in buildings, and they use the buildings themselves to shield the electronic emissions. So most of the time, these things are dormant, and they just sort of fly around, but you won't see them. They won't do anything. They might just be even in your attic or your basement. In fact, they operate in one or two locations generally. One is the attic, or the other is the basement, depending on the type of building it is. So, like, if you're in like a wooden house you have in America, like the single floor wooden building, and you have like a basement underneath it, they will operate in the basement, because the basement is the most shielded part of the building. And in fact, that's why those type of buildings are the most active. There's one was called the Demon House in the US that Zach Bagans did. And that was one of the most aggressive poltergeists as well, because when these things are relaying or broadcasting, they'll commit actions to move you away, and people perceive that as ghosts and spirits and or evil spirits. But in fact, what it's doing is it's just trying to get you away from the emissions.
And
now, is that by inducing like some type of like alpha wave or hypnagogic state into a person to where they hallucinate whatever they hallucinate?
No.
Or is it actually projected? Okay, what's happening there?
All it's doing is that these objects use a field-based propulsion system. All they're doing is directing their propulsion system onto objects, committing force. So if you commit that force onto a door, the door will open or bang.
Oh, they're physically moving things.
Yeah, or you can just throw stuff around. Yeah.
And there's a lot of videos of that. There's a lot of videos of things just moving, doors opening, rocking chairs just going back and forth.
That's right.
They're just emitting force on it.
That's it. And they're using scarecrow actions to move people away from high energy emissions. That's what it is.
And so these things, they seem to be completely aware of people, human beings, right? Their methods that they use are specifically to scare people and animals away, right? Moving something without something being there. Crazy. Yeah, it's
AI based. So they all have the same actions and behaviors all around the world. So the same poltergeist activity that's occurring in 30 East Drive replicates in other buildings in, say, in America. It's all the same. It all pulls from the same library of actions.
And Patrick, roughly how many cases with these spheres have you analyzed? I'd imagine a bunch.
Oh, quite a lot. I mean, 30 East Drive is the main one I go to because it's the most active. The reason why it's active is because it's a small building, and as a result, you can corner it. In fact, everything happens on a stairway in a couple of bedrooms. If you're actually in a big building, it's like a castle or something like that, what will happen is the sphere has plenty of room to maneuver. So it will do something in one part of the building, and then everybody goes over there to check it out, and then it'll go and broadcast in another. So it's a constant cat and mouse game. But the good thing about 30, where I go, is you can corner it. And from cornering it, you can then spot the patterns quite quickly.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and continue along. Boom, let's see, what do we got here? Oh, the bet sphere. Classic sphere in ufology. Let's just run this through real quick, I guess, and we'll talk about it.
I have no knowledge of how the sphere itself happened to be in the place where I found it. As I've stated previously, when I found it, it was on top of the ground. It was not embedded. I saw no charred marks, no big indentations in the ground. In fact, it looks as if someone had taken it and set it in the spot. But as to how it got there, I, nor anyone else I know, has any knowledge of this.
Type 3?
It's type 2.
That's type 2.
The type 3s are much smaller.
Baseball size.
Yeah.
So you got J. Allen Hynek right there. What I find interesting about this is that's the National Enquirer hosting this little event, and this is 1973. So 3 years after the close of Blue Book, when things were looking very meek. And it's just interesting that these spheres do come up, and we'll cover it later in the slides. Like even Kirkpatrick's talking about them. But you know me, Tupa, that I say the National Enquirer was like a total psyop. So the fact that their hands were all over this,
Yes,
I do find interesting.
Well,
But yeah,
wasn't there some funny business with J. Allen Hynek in this sphere anyway? Like,
yeah. So Patrick, do you want to tell us maybe about this? Anything particularly special about this one? I mean, it is probably one of the earliest, most famous ufology spheres, right?
Well, I mean, it has all the same behavior patterns and observations that other ones have been found. But what that one appears to be is the Type 2s, and from what I can tell from how I modeled it out, is the Type 2s that are the ones that are vulnerable because of their position in the architecture. So the Type 2s will link from the Type 3s in the buildings to the Type 1s up in the sky, which create the V formations that have been seen all over the world. As a result, well, you got to remember this is a defense network. It intercepts other UFOs, so there's going to be weapons flying around. And if you know where to hit, where you will hit is the Type 2s, which is what this is.
Yeah, very interesting. I want to go through it all, and then at the end, kind of see what you and Tupa think is really behind all this stuff. But it's interesting how much this stuff comes up. Let's see what we got next.
and it's rarely talked about. It's like I think it's the least interesting, right? Because we expect craft with bodies and aliens, and a metallic sphere is like, okay, you know, there's no lights on it. We don't know what to do with it, but it keeps on coming up. I mean,
Yeah.
How long ago did you find the Department of
But here's some guy I found who was talking about something similar in the 90s. Do you know this guy, Patrick?
I know of him, yeah.
Yeah.
Defense in the US? Papers just come out with Professor Avi Loeb to show that that we have some sort of super craft in the solar system that's able to deliver probes.
How long ago did you first say that?
Oh, well, it was 30 years ago, I think. Back in the mid-90s, we discovered that through patterns and cycles of UFOs that we could demonstrate a new model to show that there was a controlled autonomous surveillance of the Earth. So what we discovered was that they're actually using 660 orbital tracks around the Earth. These are not artificial satellite tracks. These orbital tracks are totally programmed to be in synchronization with the rotation of the Earth. It was all theoretical at the time, based on originally 30,000 reports worldwide we got from the US, France, and the UK. And then we whittled it down to about 1,300 reliable reports. These would be multiply witnessed or people that had taken recordings at the time.
Give us a description of what was recorded here.
Okay, well, this was in 97. 5 of us were here hoping that there might be an event occurring based on our theory. One of us got a recording of this construct just beyond the castle here. There have been many cases here in Loch Key, but I felt that was one of the best ones. One of the co-founders of ICER, which is the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research, made up of 13 countries, because we want to get it through to government officials. It's not only real, we're dealing with not a phenomenon anymore, not a big joke for the last 75 years.
So yeah, you got to link up with that guy, Patrick. I think he's in the UK too, it sounds like. But yeah, so what he was saying there, you found resonated with your research too, that
Yeah. The difference is he's actually done it at an orbital level. Well, I've done it like in just an observational level with my own eyes and what people see. But yeah, it's a case of he's seeing that there is a deployment process and a retrieval process, and there is a pre-programmed network which is around the Earth. It's like a big net.
This controversial.
How long ago did you
to hear him use that
This
language was kind of startling, right? The idea, like, hey, it's a programmed, something's going on. It's a surveillance network, and then to use those clips. I mean, every day, since we talked that first time, Patrick, I always see more and more evidence mounting. And I always wonder, how did we not notice this before? Here's a great example. This crop circle video.
Commercial film appears to show strange objects hovering above a cornfield. Below, complex circle formations appear.
They appear to be the Type 3. And all they're doing is committing their propulsion system on the ground, which is then causing imprints on the corn.
Say that one more time.
So they appear to be the Type 3s. They're the smallest ones that are like the size of a baseball. And what they appear to do is one of their tricks, is that they're doing the same things what they do in buildings. So they're using their propulsion system to direct force or commit force onto an object. In this case, it's a field, where as a result it can then imprint messages or codes or whatever it's trying to do. But yeah.
What kind of messages do you think they're trying to send?
As far as I know, I mean, I found one with binary in it. And that's what I used to trigger the spheres in buildings. I made an app called the Ghost Code, which is now called the Q Code. I basically got this crop circle that I think it was a British mathematician. He decoded it and he figured out what language it was. So I just copied that language and stuck my own commands in it. And then I converted that into a frequency. And then I played that in 30 East Drive, where I know these Type 3s are. And within literally seconds, it all starts interacting. So you start getting what you call like electrical interactions. So you have like sensors going off on demand. You ask it questions, it will respond to you. And it's all on I got it all on video, and I've done it multiple times. And other people have done it and got the same responses. So it's everywhere. It's not just in one building, it's in all of them.
Yeah, very interesting. When I saw that your research touched on this, I was like, oh, it all is connected. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. The TTSA, right? So some of these big disclosure pushers, DeLong, Mellon, Elizondo, in one of their early promos, they used a 3-orb sphere video, which I just find interesting. Shouts out Project Unity for finding this one.
Yeah, that's the Type 1 beetlement. And it works like it moves as a concise triangle. As it moves around like that, it can flip around. So what appears to be happening is that Type 1 spheres use 3 points. They operate in that formation because you need 3 points of reference to target an object in 3D space. So by their very configuration tells you what they're doing.
They're literally triangulating on a target.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see back in the TTSA, Chris Mellon, these insiders reference this video. I remember there's an interview with Lou Elizondo where he talks about how sometimes the shapes we think we're seeing are actually, individual objects traveling in formation sometimes.
Yeah.
And that they'll create kind of a plasmatic kind of connection between the 3 of them, and it'll appear like a dark object or a one whole object, but in reality it's just these 3. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it could have been a cluster of Type 1s all in a big triangle. It could have been that. But then a lot of people said they saw a massive triangle craft. So
yeah.
Unless I actually got a real good video of it, can I really determine?
Dude. Well, I'm loving these slides. Yeah.
That's interesting what you said about Elizondo. I wish that sounds interesting. I wish I would have found it, but he's basically talking about this exact same thing, right? From what you remember?
Yeah, he says that like sometimes like basically like, the cylinder objects, the triangle objects might be one out like an orb traveling in pairs. Now you have a connection between them, or it looks like a connection. It looks like a cigar shape. The triangle patterns that we see, it could be 3 different individual objects as opposed to one whole object, and it just creates a look to it. And I think there's more than enough data behind that claim. At first, I didn't realize what he was talking about, but he could have been hinting to this.
I mean, what you're really looking at is energized oxygen. or air, the gas molecules.
Right.
That's why you see the glow, and that's why the glow kind of bends and twists around. And that's why some people think these things the shape is changing, but it's not. It's just the energized gas molecules that are giving that impression. The actual object itself is just the same. It's a big ball.
And the ones that we're seeing here, those would be the type 1s?
They look to be the type 1s. Which ones?
These ones here.
That's type 1s.
Now, type 1s are about what, beach ball size?
Yes.
Okay. Type 1's beach ball size, high altitude. Type 2, basketball size, relay. And then type 1, baseball size. They're in the houses. They have to be connected to everything else.
That's right.
The network itself. Okay. Now, they work as an extension outward from 3 to 1, right? Or they don't go backwards from 1 to 3. Or is there a two-way connection?
So the type 3s in the buildings are the underlying data network, which are using burst relay, and then they will then connect up to the type 2s, which operate lower to the ground, generally a couple hundred feet, which then, depending on the distance between the type 3 and type 2 and the type 1s, they might have to daisy chain along to reach the location. So what you might see is the type 2 here, another one here, another one here, another one here, and then you'll see a V formation at the top.
Right on.
Nice. Now, pardon me, this next one should not say TTSA promo, but this is from the Jubilee, the Queen Jubilee.
Yeah, that one actually looks to be a type 2, because the type 2s always fly low to the ground. And they can go from, according to the US anyway, they can go from standstill to Mach 2 in literally a heartbeat. So these ones will fly point to point where needed, and then they will uplink to the type 3s in the building, and then daisy chain or link to the type 1V formations.
So they're involved with paranormal stuff, but it also seems like, I don't know, this event, right? They're kind of, it seems like you see them at like around political figures and leaders often. Have you found that?
Well, it might be a case of they just happen to be seen because they're everywhere, literally. Or it might be also the case that some might just like our own drones. I mean, most of the time they're run by AI, the military drones, but they can also be taken over manually and flown manually. So it might be the case of whoever runs the system just wanted to see the event as well.
This was them around Air Force One, I think like a year ago?
Yep, that looks to be a type 1. That's the way how big it is. Yeah. Now, that behavior has been seen many times where they fly directly underneath the plane. It's almost as if they're doing some sort of scan on the plane itself to see who's in it or how many people are in it.
Now, are they interested in individual people or craft? You know what I mean? Like, have they ever been known to focus on a person? And if so, why?
I don't know about person particularly. I don't know about people specifically, but so in my book I describe it. So it's like the type 1 spheres will trigger when the algorithm detects an anomaly. So what it will do is it will monitor airspace, and then it will trigger when something's changed. In the same way as in our banking system, we have AI machines that will monitor the transactions on say a card. And then what will happen is when a spend transaction is unusual, it will flag it. And then that will go to security. It's because there's been a change in the normal pattern. So what happens is that when there's a air traffic that is out of place, these spheres will check it out. And in fact, that's why you see them a lot at air shows as well, because this unusual flight behavior low to the ground, and then the spheres will engage it, or at least check it out.
That's interesting. Tupa, to your point, I know somebody who's fairly knowledgeable about UFOs, and they say one of their only experiences was they were trying some new weird breathing meditation thing with a friend, and then after they did that, like a metallic sphere was just hovering above them, probably like 300 feet, just like posted.
What?
Yeah, have you ever heard about this, Patrick? Like
Yeah.
humans? Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I do have some ideas on that, but I can't. I don't really want to put them out there just yet. But it does appear that there is some sort of subconscious connection to it.
You know, I have a video. I'll find it on my phone. I shared it with a buddy of mine about 2 years ago. I noticed I was on like a kind of a look. Not I was near a lookout, and in the valley of the lookout, right, of this like kind of hillside I was on is a small airport. But I saw hovering over it this metallic sphere, and from my position, it could have been a Mylar balloon, but it was moving to controlled. It was like up, then down, then right, then left. Like that was. So I have a video of it, of course, from a phone, and it's just like shitty. But I mean, I always wondered what that was, and then my friend ended up finding more videos of like, oh no, look, dude, they're all over the place. And I found this. I just kind of I just dismissed it as a Mylar balloon, but I'm gonna go back and check that out because.
Well, I mean,
very interesting.
What I kind of theorize is that not only do these spheres control access to Earth, they control access to space or to our airspace. So if there's something happening, say like an external threat is directly above an airport, say up in orbit or nearby it, it might actually shut down the airport to prevent air traffic.
So it's able to access our technologies and control it. Have you ever seen?
No. Well, what I mean is they will just start flying over the airport itself, so they won't take planes off.
Do they have any like defensive measures you've come across, like actively, I don't know, projectiles or laser beams or anything like that?
Not projectiles, no. But that event did happen over Heathrow and Gatwick at the same time here in England a few years ago, where these drones started flying over both airports, locking them down so nothing could take off. But then the military was sent in and they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anyone. They found one person, but then they had to let them go because they couldn't prove it. And when you actually look into the details of it, it doesn't even match normal drone behavior anyway, because these things are up in the sky for 8 hours, while most drones can only last 20 minutes. Well, back then it was 20 minutes. So regarding weapon systems, well, the Type 1s are armed, yeah.
What are they armed with?
Well, they appear to be using high energy beams of some sort. All you see when you observe these things in the sky, you start seeing these flashes. So you'll see. I was doing some sky watching about a year ago, and I saw all these clusters of spheres come across the sky. Then they stopped, and then suddenly you start seeing a flash in the distance, and it's like, what's that? Because it's too high to be a plane, but it's this big flash, like flash. So it looks like they're like opening fire on something, and that's what it appears to be. Well, as far as I can tell.
We have this question from Space Snafu in the live chat. How about small red orbs the size of ping pong balls? We saw them as children in our house. My sister said they would talk to her when she would lay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Type 1 or the Type 3? Basically the baseball?
In the buildings, yeah. The red color is an atomic light. So it's just when you change a certain frequency, you can change the light that it produces.
And the talking to thing, you kind of alluded to it where you think they're not really ready to say the interaction with consciousness, but communication with humans. Have you come across that in other?
Apparently, I mean, I've had a bit of it in a way. Not so. When I was doing my tests, I would set something up, and then I would almost see like a flash of that setup, and then something would happen in like the next second.
Really?
But I haven't had like direct messages or anything like that. But people say they have.
Nice. Well, let's go ahead and continue along. Here's just another photo of the Air Force One. So what do we got next? Oh, so this is, I think, some of your drawings and
Yeah.
diagrams. Maybe you wanted to speak on it, or
Yeah,
tell.
yeah. So what you have at the back there, these formations keep replicating around the world every week. So most of the time we just see the Type 1V formations, which most people record. But when you have like a more of a wide angle lens, you'll notice there's two others as well. So the one on the left there is a Type 2, that's the relay. They relay down some Type 3s in buildings. And each, it appears that they need one Type 2 for every cluster of Type 3. So one relay controls three seers. So generally, when you have two groups of them, it means there's two targets.
So they can get multiple targets.
Yeah, from multiple directions.
They just daisy chain for real.
That's right.
Does the size of the target matter? Would they need
So
to?
yeah, well, I mean, I would say the bigger the target, the more you need.
What's the most you've seen, or are you aware of anything that's used more than 6?
I've seen pictures which I have blown up and had a close look at, where there's just swarms of them everywhere.
We just got a question from Benno. Do the spheres need to dock to recharge? Who's operating them, us or non-human intelligence?
Well, it's certainly not us, because by the way, when you think about this, so if the Type 3 seers are responsible for poltergeist activity, all you have to do to measure how long they've been here is Google when was the first time poltergeist activity was recorded, and it goes back to the 1st century. So these things have been here forever.
Yeah, and we saw those pictures or drawings from the 1800s that look like that showed them. So that was very interesting. All right, let's go ahead and continue along. Thanks for being here, Benno.
Now, if they're a defense network, does that mean that we weren't defended before they were here, or we weren't threatened before they showed up?
No, I think they've been here before humans were even created.
Oh, damn.
So here's another graphic of yours that really lays out the different types of spheres, Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. It says their sizes, their formation. So yeah, really good stuff, really interesting stuff.
So the interesting thing is, if you look at the Type 3s, it says here, during high-energy uplinks, actions to move people away, aka the inverse square law of radiation, which makes sense. So the further you are away from a building, the safer it is. And also the thing is that it also explains another thing as well, which is spontaneous human combustion. So you say to yourself, okay, well, why are they making this diversion? What's the danger? You know, what's the point? Well, if they're producing high energy emissions, which appears to be microwave and gamma rays bursts, then the byproduct of that, if you happen to be in the way of it, would replicate spontaneous human combustion.
Wow, that's really interesting. Wow, would you recommend then if people see one of these, maybe keep a healthy distance?
Yeah.
Real quick. Yeah, let's watch this clip, and then I want to kind of like map out how this network works, what would happen. I got a little diagram, and we'll see how if a UFO shows up, what exactly happens and what people should look out for.
Okay.
This is Gary Nolan hinting at this stuff.
Do you want to do your thing first, actually? Because I want to press about how I want to dig deep into what Gary Nolan thought about this and what Ross Coulthart thought about it.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So check this out. This would be like a zoom in on a house. So here, let's say we got T3s, got Type 3, Type 2, Type 1, up in this area here. This is a zoom in on a building of a person would be in the mix. And here we have a UFO. So we got our UFO, it pops in. It's like right here. These things down here, these are the Type 3s you say are part of this network. So they're always around.
They're always around, yeah.
Okay, some of them are in houses. This guy's getting poltergeist, right, as we speak. So at some point, the Type 2s roll in because this guy's in the mix, right? So you have the Type 2s pop in, and they are just supposed to relay. In fact, we're probably going to bring this guy. I don't know. So the Type 2s just are here, and their job is to communicate to the Type 3s. Now, the weapons system is the Type 1s. And they show up in a triangle formation. Like, is it like this?
That's right.
Now you have the connection being here and here. And then something happens between these guys and this thing blows up.
Or disabled, yeah.
And if it's disabled, it just kind of crashes. And then we have...
That's right.
Then
you have an extraction process.
Do they emit a type of energy that like can be tracked by satellites? Like, could the government be like, oh, whatever these things do to take down that thing, could it be sensed by satellite? So then basically the crash retrieval program guys, if it crashes here, would be able to know, okay, look, something happened.
Most likely, yeah. Most likely.
So this is the formation typically seen traveling over like cities, right, and over places because they're doing their job. And if they're here, that means the UFO is typically above them.
That's correct. It's kind of like, in that respect, it'll be more to the right because they are, if you can imagine like an arrow going through the center, yeah, about that.
Like that.
So as the object will be passing over, that will be tracking it like that.
Now, does the Type 2 have to be like, if let's say the UFO is over here more? Now, what do we do with does the Type 2 have to then move over here?
Yeah, it'll move upwards. The Type 2 is always in the safest point it can be. So it would be kind of like either lower to the ground, but it has to work around environmental topology as well. So the Type 2 is commonly seen around mountainous areas, while a daisy chaining anyway. But generally, the Type 2 will, in that situation, the Type 2 will drop lower to the ground. If it was a flat location, if it's flat on the ground, depending on, of course, where it's relaying from.
Interesting.
Great graphic, by the way, Tupa.
Yeah, I was a weather guy in another life. So then we have this guy would move over here. This guy would move kind of over in that. So now, is the point to have a direct line like that, or is that just the way that their technology works?
It appears to be that's just the way it works.
Okay.
Yeah. So once it triangulates on that, the Type 1 spheres use 3 points to triangulate on a target in 3D space. In a way, it's like GPS, but in reverse. Like our phones would normally track three satellites to find our own location.
Oh, so
but
like,
in this case,
if this guy was way up here, then this would have to drop. That's
right.
Because it's okay. So you can always tell where the UFO is depending on the formation,
right.
Especially if the video. Let's say there's video evidence, which we have a ton of, right? And these guys are in that shape, and they're moving, towards you. But then okay, this thing is somewhere. Okay, and it's tracking something. Now, the
distance, you got to remember, the distance between that and the UFO might be 20 miles or 10 miles. It's like our own, missile systems. They can fire for 20, 30 miles away. So these things will be real high up in the sky. But other times they're low as well. So it depends on, but it's the same process, same formation.
Is there a maximum or minimum distance between the type ones? Like, does it?
I don't know.
Because I wonder if they're like spread apart, if that means the object's big, and if it maxes out, they only have so much like distance they can go before they lose the ability to use their weapon, so they need to call in more back. I don't know. This is an interesting thing. It's like one of the best things we have in terms of like predicting behavior, analyzing the behavior of something, and trying to figure out. I mean, I know that everybody wants to know what this thing is, right? I'm sure I'd love to know what's flying these things and then kidnapping people. You know what I mean? That's interesting. But these guys seem to be the only clue when these things are around. That's interesting.
That's right.
While researching the spheres, have you came across any kind of like an order of these things, like the UFOs? What kind of UFOs are like the most threatening, for instance, or which ones these guys typically shoot down?
Not really. I think they go for anything that's not on their team. I think it's appear to go for anything that's not on their side.
So you think the orbs and the saucers are on different sides, right?
Well, if they're triangling on them, yeah.
And then we have this question in the comments from David Mende Karate. I woke up hard from a sleep paralysis about 16 years ago and found 2 dark orbs bounce from where I slept outside my window. What do you think it was doing?
Oh, okay. So what I've noticed is if the spheres have to broadcast locally to you, they will either hold you in place or they will move you out the way. And there's a video I saw a while ago where a guy in the gym and suddenly he got grabbed and pulled to the side to the wall.
Yeah.
So what it appears to be is that they will force you out the way if you're in the danger zone, if you want to say. So yeah, that's what it appears to be. If like in his case, it sounds like they had to go into his house to broadcast or uplink. Then he said, right, keep him there, keep him there, kind of thing, keep him out of the way. In 30 East Drive, a similar thing happened where there was a girl playing at the base of the stairs, and from my tests, I can track where the spheres are pretty much operating, which is in the attic, directly above the staircase. And what they did was they pulled her up the stairs into the bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Backwards.
So do you think they're monitoring everyone, or like, was there something that happened with David that like cued them in, or what do you think's happening?
No. Their main task, from what I can tell, is to protect the skies. So they will go wherever they need to go and do what they need to do.
Nice. All right. Well, should we get back to the slides?
Let's do it.
Cool. So, after about like 5 to 10-ish years of research and stuff, right? You're starting to make headway, and then you start making waves with some of these big UFO disclosure pushers, right? So we have Gary Nolan. Let's see. Can you hear?
Can.
UFOs that they were
Really quiet though.
for.
So how did you get onto Gary Nolan's radar, and what was that like?
Well, I sourced the sphere that Ross did a spotlight show on.
How long ago did you
Uh-oh, messed up the thing a little bit.
This
1 second. But yeah, so it's from Ross, right? Okay, so let's watch the... What is it doing that? 1 second, sorry.
How long ago did you...
This country.
So let's watch the Ross things too. Oh man, hold on.
Well, the most interesting thing.
Thank you, Red, for navigating this on your phone. Red's on
Right.
the road right now. Appreciate you, dog.
I was living in New Mexico, and a friend of mine, Dennis Hopper's bodyguard, wanted me to come out and see his house. It was way out in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. We went out there, and there was a pile of these spheres laying in his yard.
How many?
Maybe 6 or 7. I don't remember exactly. There was just a pile of them. And I was amazed, because I'd never seen anything like these. And what the heck is that? And he said, I'd tell you, but you wouldn't believe me. And I said, well, try me. And he said, well, Jim, I swear to God, a UFO came over my house and dropped these out in my yard. He said, they've been sitting there ever since. And I was amazed at him. And he said, do you want one? You can have one. So I took it. Well, I've had it for over 40 years, so I've seen it do some things that I can't explain. I was laying on my back on my floor, and I was just mindlessly rubbing my feet on the sphere while I was talking to a friend of mine. And when suddenly there was this flash of light, and I was shot across the floor on my back. I was 6 to 10 feet away from the sphere. It knocked me that far away from it. You know, and there's no explanation for that.
You think that's alien technology, don't you?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Damn.
So yeah, this is how you got kind of acquainted with Gary Nolan, because Ross did this piece, right? Did he reach out to you, or how did you get acquainted with Ross? And I guess is the first question.
No, I found the sphere itself.
Oh,
You
so
found it?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you find it? Walk us through that.
Well, I know because I've been studying for quite a long time, and I've seen quite a few of them as well. I know how they look, how they move, how their signatures generally, and I seem to have an ability to see the signatures of things. And so when I saw it, because it was actually online, they did like an interview. I spotted it, and I kind of went, okay, well, let me just get in touch and see what I think. And it took me like 10 seconds to see the signatures. And that's what it was.
let's play another Ross clip.
Hell yes.
Might have dope, and was the coolest guy I've met in a very long time. Jim had this crazy story that he literally was. He was at the home of a well-known rock star in the mountains, and there was this pile of spheres lying on the ground, and his rock star friend told him that they'd literally been sitting on the back porch the previous night, and a craft had literally dropped them into the forest, and they think that the house was so hidden in the forest, whatever it was, didn't realize that there were humans there. Anyway, one of his mates said, "You can take one of these spheres." And Jim claims, and I have to admit, we did see anomalous stuff with this sphere. Jim claims that this sphere does things, that it moves around on its own account. And more importantly, there's a history of such spheres going back to the 1970s, a family called the Betts family in Florida. And the so-called Betts sphere used to wobble around the house and literally sort of go around chairs and then come back again. And it was like their pet, but it was a sphere. And I heard about this guy called Jim Marlin from a guy called Patrick Jackson in the UK who studies these spheres. Patrick has made a study and written a book about these spheres that he believes are some kind of non-human intelligence that is purportedly protecting the planet from unfriendly NHIs.
So very cool. You connected Ross with Jim.
Yeah.
Wild.
Do you know
wild.
like a lot of other people like Jim? Since you're kind of, I'd imagine you're like the sphere guy, right? So if other people have one of these, have you gotten in contact with the other people who have these at home that maybe don't want to go public, like on a Ross Coulthart piece?
Yeah, you could say that.
Very interesting. Ashton Forbes in the chat, my favorite orb expert.
Hell yeah.
We're definitely going to be touching on MH370 because, like, how could we not on this episode?
It already came up in the chat. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then
now, what is this? Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker Ranch even has them, bro. They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, Patrick, I'm sure you're not surprised by that.
No, not surprised.
Whoa. Back that up. Yeah, back that up. What was that?
I'm just running through it frame by frame.
What?
Like a silver orb.
Didn't you see it? It was like some little quick flash there.
I saw over in this area there, yeah.
Whoa, right there. Look at that.
So depending on how far away.
Close to the ground, that's a type 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, Tupa. Heck yeah. We're learning.
We're learning.
That is.
And that would be the size of a baseball.
Yeah, I mean, if it's back at the tree line, that thing's pretty big.
It's massive if it's at the tree line.
Well, that gives us clues when we see these things in video and photos. You don't really know how to track it, but if it's low enough to the ground, it's most likely a type 3, which is baseball size. So that gives you an idea of where it is in 3D space of any photograph, which is great because scale and spheres are not known for being friends with each other. You don't have any idea how big a sphere is in anything outside of the reflection of it. But this gives us a clue. So this is like relatively... This isn't at the tree line like they're suspecting. It's, I don't know, 20 yards away from the camera. This is crazy.
Yeah, Peppery goes and says, shout out TJ, friend of the show. Heck yeah. And also I want Dragon on at some point. That'd
We
be
gotta
fun.
get him.
But yeah.
Now, how fast can the Type 3s go? Is it traveling now, or is it just phasing in and out? How does it appear?
I think they go from 0 to Mach 2.
Just like a bullet.
Just like a bullet.
Oh, I
These
saw
are the ones in
you
the buildings.
tweeted this out to Fugle, right?
Mm-hmm. This is the ones in the building. The one on the right is the one in 30 East Drive. Baseball size, hovering off the ground, and the other one is actually taken in. That's an image of one taken in the UK in a field.
And 30 East Drive, that's the paranormal hotspot.
Yeah, that's the most violent poltergeist in the world, or in the UK, and some would argue the world.
Now, if that's the case, I mean, you might have already gone over this. I apologize if you did, but if that's the case, that means there's there must be a central point for the relay system there, just off chance, or there's a lot of UFO activity there. What conclusion could you come to?
So what you have, if you have a drone that is AI based, that needs a network and it's producing high energy emissions and transmissions and receivings and data relay, then all you have to do is look at other buildings that are equally as active, and you'll notice that they operate in lines and clusters. So they're basically relaying along the chain. It's also why, actually, that haunted houses, is like, especially with East Drive, the neighbors' houses are all active as well, but not as much, only a little bit. And it's because it's doing a thing called load balancing. So what you have, instead of just having a single route going through an area, you'll have a cluster of these spheres in buildings and in the area. And then depending on which one is the least noisy, or the fastest way of transmitting from A to B, it will do a signal redirection effect, load balancing. Because when humans are close to these things, they cause delay because they don't want to. They're trying to stop the emissions from affecting people, so they just reroute it through empty buildings, or mostly empty buildings anyway.
The amount of care that's taken to protect people from this is, you also have the fact that this is a defense system, in your opinion, right? So there's a lot of care for people, right? It's guarding us and all biological life, or is it mostly us? Like if we were to overlay a map of where these type 3 networks would be and human population, would we see, a correlation?
You see coherence, yeah. Correlation, yeah. I mean, you say care, but really it's just the AI process. So if you don't take the warnings, it will just do what it needs to do anyway. I mean, back when I was doing my tests, I wouldn't run when these things were going on. Like I would be like, things were flying down the stairs and marbles bouncing off the wall, and I'll just sit there waiting it out, And then I start feeling sick, and I've got headaches, and I've got all these issues. And it appears to be I'm getting affected by radiation or gamma radiation bursts, because all the same effects I was getting and other people get, including headaches, sickness, and there's a whole list of them. You experience after there's a poltergeist effect. It's because of the emissions. And if you don't take note, if you don't just run, get out of the way, you'll just get a burst of it. And from what I hear, I mean, I can't prove it, but from what I hear, it causes Parkinson's disease.
Do you find they interact with animals as well? Also, Tupa, you're muted.
Yeah, well, animals don't like it at all. Animals will just bark and scream and run the other way.
You'll see.
And now here's the interesting thing, right? Everybody wants to give Kirkpatrick all this smoke, right? Maybe justified, maybe not. But he did say some things were anomalous, and it was these spheres, right? People like to forget that. Like, there was a point where he was saying, like, so this is from the Senate hearing that I believe was last April, where it was Kirkpatrick talking to, like, Gillibrand.
See it come through the top of the screen. There it goes. And then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll see it pop in and out of the field of view there. This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago.
Yeah, that's the type 2.
It is going to...
And if you carry on tracking the video, you'll notice it goes underground.
Oh, that one goes underground. Interesting.
Because the ones that Skinwalker deploy from the ground.
So you think that might be where they're all based?
Mm-hmm.
Is that typical, deploying from the ground, or is that unique?
And the ocean, yeah.
And they can just phase through the ground. They don't have to, like, or the quantum tunneling.
No. I think they just go into holes. Like in that video, they fly down a deep hole in the ground.
Now, these things would obviously be in, like, caves back when they were doing, like, the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff, right? Like, so other cultures came across these things. We see them in paintings all the time. Very, very strange. You got to wonder.
Yeah, and shouts out Corbell. He got this one. If you notice right there, it says UAP characteristics and behavior consistent with other metallic orb observations in the region. So look, there's Kirkpatrick telling y'all he doesn't know what this is. And it's similar to other reports of a very similar thing. So make of that what you will.
Red, wasn't there some kind of chart that showed that, like, sphere sightings are by far the most? They make up the most amount of sightings?
I think we do have that chart.
Yeah, 50%, 54%.
Let's finish this.
It's going to be virtually impossible to fully identify that just based off of that video. Now, what we can do and what we are doing is keeping that as part of that group of 52% to see what are the similarities, what are the trends across all of these, do we see these in a particular distribution, do they all behave the same or not? As we get more data, we will be able to go back and look at these in a fuller context.
That was pretty huge. I remember when that happened, I was like, holy crap. They're talking about this stuff. He also talked about it at the NASA hearing.
Objectivity and analytic rigor. This includes physical testing and employing modeling and simulation to validate our analyses and the underlying theories, and then peer reviewing those results before reaching any conclusions. This is an example of one that I showed at the hearing recently. This is a spherical orb, metallic, in the Middle East, 2022, by an MQ-9. I will come back to the sensor question that David raised here in a moment. This is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. We see these all over the world, and we see these in making very interesting apparent maneuvers. This one in particular, however, I would point out, demonstrated no enigmatic technical capabilities and was no threat to airborne safety.
How are they going to say that when we just saw it barreling across the city like super fast, right? But it's still, I think people forget that Kirkpatrick said this twice now, 2 big public statements of like, and what did he say right there? We see these all around the world, and like Patrick and y'all said, this is what they see the most of.
Which is true. That's the type 2s. So they fly loads of the ground, and they will go where they need to go. And it's an AI-based defense network that is.
It's crazy. You're in like you're in the position where Sean Kirkpatrick is validating like your research, right, and your theories, when everyone hates him. But what did you think when you saw this at these hearings?
No surprise. I mean, I gave the diagram to a senator in the U.S. Congress about 2 years or a year before, these hearings started. And then, funny enough, when they all start, they start talking about spheres.
We have about 2 more slides. Oh yeah, so this is from the Arrow UAP reporting trends. Just some interesting data. Yeah, it just goes to show that like these are on Arrow's radar, despite all the stuff people say about Arrow. Like, I mean, Tupa, do you remember Kirkpatrick? These clips I just played, do you remember him saying this? Don't you feel like people like sleep on this?
Yeah. People be sleeping on Kirkpatrick. You know what I mean? Did he lie about the Skinwalker Ranch meeting? Yeah, a little bit. But they wanted something out of him. They didn't get it. So they're kind of overlook stuff like this, which I think is valid for sure. I mean, he brought up the spheres. Didn't know what they were. You know what I mean? People sleep on this. I think that's one of the reasons why people sleep on this theory at all, is because it's not the saucer, Patrick, that you're calling attention to. It's this other thing, you know? And there's a lot of evidence for this. All right, let's get your thoughts on MH370.
We had to get your thoughts on this video, Patrick. So what do you think of this video? MH370, I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I know of it. So when I first saw it, I watched it twice, and everything in my mind, the patterns are wrong. The way the spheres are moving, the way they're rotating around the craft, that's not their normal flight behavior. But also, there's lots of composite issues as well, which a lady, I think I mentioned before, was Chrissy or
Crishley or Crishley?
That's the one, yeah. She's noticed that in one of the frames or a few of the frames, the plane goes through the retinal on the camera, which is technically impossible. So to me, it is a CGI. But in saying that, it is a good one, and I think when you're dealing with these subjects, you see that the idea of government as a whole is just to keep things going. You know, the government doesn't want to cause problems in the world. Really, it doesn't. It just wants the markets to be stable. It wants no drama. So when you got all these people asking about MH370, what the intelligence industry would do is sort of give you a hint of what may have happened, but do it in a way where it looks kind of real, but when you really look close at it, it isn't. So what it does, it puts the public at odds with itself and arguing. It distracts, in a sense. That said, something weird did happen to MH370, and the fact is that there are spy satellites all around the area, all over the world, that probably did see the plane, and they probably knew where it's gone and where it happened to it. But the fact that there is a complete data blackout on it, and the only thing that is this very cleverly constructed. Well, the video itself isn't well constructed, but the data behind it is. So it's very easy for people to look at some data that come out and go, "Oh, that is real," but actually the actual video isn't. So that's the kind of games that the intelligence community do.
Wow, that's a similar take as Sean Cahill had when Red asked him a question about this. He asked him, "What did you think?" I don't know if you're familiar with who Sean Cahill is, but he's a good friend of Lou Elizondo. So it's very interesting. He said, "If it's a fake, it's very well done, and whoever made it had some type of insider knowledge about some stuff that it probably shouldn't have known. The average guy in his basement doing CGI, you know what I mean, in 2014 wasn't aware of anything like this." So I find that to be interesting, that the government could have faked this as what it looks. It's looking like an intelligent community hoax that could be easily debunked. But like you said, the purpose of it would be to like, hey, something happened, but if you guys try to draw attention to this, we're just going to debunk it. It was a fake, but you know, you're not the first person to suggest that it could be a fake by the intelligence community.
I mean, if the video was real, then no one will get on planes anymore. You know, so these are the things that the government have to think about, and how it would affect global trade and all sorts of things like that. So the best option they can come up with is to produce a video that looks convincing to the layman, add a bit of data behind it to make it look like from good sources, but actually when you really look at it close up, there are serious composite errors with it.
All
to
right.
the point of impossibility.
All right, now thanks for weighing in on MH370. I mean, it's interesting because it's, you know, metallic spheres, right? But I want to go over some more details about this if we can, right? Just what these things are, because I put a little baseball there for reference of size, right? So this would be the Type 3. Now, they're all spheres. They all have to be using the same method of movement, right? They all have to be using the same technology. They can all move very freely.
Yeah, they're,
right? So,
they're the bigger variants of the same technology. Yeah.
Okay. And so, like, for instance, we know that these guys can quantum tunnel. Can all of them quantum tunnel? And that's probably how they're moving in general, right? They don't have any mode of propulsion. Are they just, or when they quantum tunnel, are they invisible?
No. They fly around in a linear way, just very fast. But they can go through solid objects. At least the small ones can. I don't know about the bigger ones. There might be some sort of limitation on that process.
Now,
but
we know that the Type 3s are in houses, right? And then they can cause these paranormal experiences, which could include essentially just pushing something.
Yeah.
Right? Now, so they can push something. What's the smallest object they can push?
Anything from a marble, actually.
Really? That's about around the size. Okay.
Yeah.
Can these guys push? Or these guys? Can they do similar things if they need to?
Technically, yes. I mean, they're still using a field-based propulsion system, and they can still direct it on objects.
Now, clearly these guys, the bigger guys, are weapons. They have something on them that these other two don't.
It seems that way, yeah.
Do the Type 3s ever cluster up? Or they
they generally operate as a dynamic network, so they're always in cluster. They're always in a state of cluster anyway.
So they could be as close or as far apart as they need to be.
Yes.
Okay.
So, for instance, if this is why new buildings that have never had any death or deaths recorded or anything like that become very active, because the network moves. It's a dynamic network. It moves around.
You're saying that buildings that can't possibly be haunted because nothing has happened in them are haunted because these objects are in them. Okay.
It's a dynamic network, so it'll just move around to its needs.
Now these guys have to be plugged into this network at all times, right? They have.
Yes.
But what about these guys? Are the Type 2 just invisible and not around? Are they somewhere in waiting along with the Type 1s until, you know what I mean, until they're called upon?
Yeah, so the Type 2s, they seem to, they're flying around at low altitude generally. But they do appear to have the ability to bend light around them, so they kind of appear to disappear and vanish in front of you. Like the Type 3s can do the same. In fact, there's a side effect I noticed in the buildings when the Type 3s are using this cloaking effect. The actual walls and the ground around them become darker because they're actually bending the light and pulling the light and redirecting it.
So like a darker area in a room?
Yeah.
It's like this, let's say this is the Type 3. It's chilling here in this room. And that would mean that it could create, if no one could see it, it would have this shadow area around.
It's like a black shadow around it. Yeah. In fact, that's the most common
Terrifying.
type of. It's the most common type of thing seen in these buildings. Anyway, it's like a very fast moving shadow that moves around in a digital way.
The shadowy figure is a common one. You see it all the time. Interesting. Okay. Wow. So okay, so we have this network of blue or of type 1s that are around. My question is like, if there's are there less type 3s than type 2s, and are there less type 2s than type 1s?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, logically, you would need more type 3s because it's the network. As I said, it depends on the environmental topology of the country as well. Like in Japan, haunted houses are very, very common. It's because if you look at the actual topology of the country, it's very jagged. So if you're trying to do a line of sight kind of network, you would need lots of relays. While on another place that is say a very flat land, you would only need a few.
Do you think they have the same stuff inside, basically? Like if you were to like cut these things open, cross section it, has anyone ever done this before?
Not that I'm aware of.
So like the Bet sphere, wherever that is, and Jim's sphere, no one's cutting into these. They're just letting them chill.
Not that I'm aware of.
We have Sean Kirk.
In fact, cutting into one, I think, is a real stupid thing to do. Because
right.
if the power source is still active, you don't know what the power source is. It's a very dangerous thing to cut into it. It's like, would you cut open a fusion reactor?
No, that sounds like a nightmare.
Well, there you go.
I'm glad no one's exposed to Demon Core. So yeah, Sean Kirk Fact Trick is in the mix, and he said that he tried out one of your devices in order to see something. He was on a Spaces where you were at as well, and he shared his story. Now, what he said scared the shit out of me. He said that he turned this thing on in his living room, went over to the kitchen, made himself a cup of tea, turned around, and where this light was at, this kind of strobe light, he saw two figures looking at him.
Yeah.
He said it scared him so bad, he left, went and stayed at a friend's house, but that night ended up checking himself into the hospital because he couldn't cope with what he had just seen.
That's right.
That's a terrifying story, and one I don't think a lot of people want to endure. But is that a common story with people who try out your equipment?
Yeah. Even I got it on tape as well, on camera.
We're going to have to go through your Twitter account because I saw this video you shared.
So how it works, just to explain how it works.
Okay.
Is so I kind of figured that if these guys are walking among us, kind of thing, how would they be doing it? And the only way you can do it is by redirecting light, redirecting photons around your body. So what the strobe does, the strobe itself is coded. So what it does, it introduces noise into the system, which means it can overwhelm this stealth system, can effectively burn through it. So what you get is a reflection. And then what you use is high-speed cameras to see what's happening. The camera, I think that the video you're going to show, that was running at around 50 to, I think it's a 60 frames a second. And you only catch it in about maybe 5 or 6 frames. But that's what it appears to be. So what it seems to is that these guys are walking around us in what I call a localized time dilation. So what that means is that when they switch this dilation on, we're all in freeze frame, and they can just walk around like normal, like we are. It's just we're just in freeze frame, and we don't. They can walk right by us, look at us, stare at us, walk away. You won't see it. You only see it on the high-speed cameras.
I'm setting up this clip right now. So really, I don't know. I find this to be particularly disturbing. Now, so what we're looking at here is the light, the strobe, and then the light that it's casting up.
So just to back up, this was filmed in the middle of a wood in the middle of England, in the middle of the night, and there's no one around. It's just us. And I think what the strobe does as well is because it is operating in a form of randomness. The spheres themselves are basically just drones that have a database, And what happens is that the database can't sample what's going on. So what it'll do is it will flag it, and then other guys will come and have a look. And that's what I think happened here.
Check this clip out, guys.
And if you look there, you'll notice the light bends to the right.
Can you guys see that?
If you step back a couple of frames.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Keep going. There. See it?
Yeah, that's a strange movement.
Well, that's actually technically impossible. Because this was filmed at 60 frames a second. So to manually sort of somehow bend the light at 60 frames a second for 1 or 2 frames is impossible.
And then we have this appearance, this thing that was kind of not in focus.
See it bend there? You go back a bit more. There. See it?
This isn't the being moving. This is
the light.
And you can see, yeah, it's affected down here too. Okay, wild.
We also got a Coulthart.
And actually, you can see the people as well. And actually, this is a short video of the longer version. And in the longer version, you see other guys turning up as well. There. And if you look at the eye socket and the bones around the eye, around here, and also along the ridge along here, this matches the skulls that we have found in Peru.
The mummies.
Yeah.
So the mummies could be, and what about the elongated skull guys too, right? These guys could
elongated
be
skulls. Yeah, same guy, same ones.
I mean, it looks like the Scream mask. This is almost terrifying. Look at this. I mean, you can make out the whole face.
So do you speculate that the mummies are connected to these things?
It appears to me like there are second species that live here. And
Ultra-terrestrials.
Yeah.
Better technology than we got.
Yeah.
In
the same way as we don't talk to primates, they don't talk to humans. Or not really, directly. But we still share the same stage.
Now, when they're in our physical space, you say that they move around in a way that makes us look frozen in time.
That's right.
They're moving so quickly.
Well, no, they're on their own time dilation. So it's like they can switch it on, and they'll just walk around like normal, like we are, like normally, like we're talking now. But everyone outside of that bubble will be in freeze frame.
And Ben will ask, do they emit a radio signature?
I don't know. I mean, I could probably figure it out if I had a bit of funding.
You should. Have you tried to get funding, or have any governments hit you up? I mean, Ross Coulthart's hitting you up, right? People kind of in the know, because your research seems to be like right on the money.
To be honest with you, I think I think it's. I haven't know. I mean, I've had a lot of very wealthy people sort of be interested, but they just seem to want to take the information and run.
I'm gonna go ahead and show little Pop-Tarts real quick.
Hold on, Ralph.
Yeah, there you go. That's a type 2. So that's, again, you see how it's moving across the sky? they kind of just generally stay in the same direction, but the same altitude. And because it's producing a line of sight, a microwave length, they will stay and they'll just move across the sky where it's needed.
That's a little Pop-Tart. He said he did this after a global CE5 event, or he saw this. So maybe another point towards that consciousness connection.
It could be, yeah.
Connection.
It could be.
Well, that's about it, I think, for the slides and stuff. Is there anything else you want to say about this sphere network, or what do you have going on? Or, I guess you're looking for maybe funding to maybe do some more in-depth research.
What do you think about this?
Well, I've never seen any that have like these antennae sticking out. So, and when I see close up of this, it looks like a bit fake, to be honest with you.
Looks
but
weird,
I don't
right?
know. Yeah, it doesn't quite look quite right to me.
Do you think we ever see kind of like ham-fisted man-made recreations of this stuff?
Probably.
Okay.
You know, the thing is I think the intelligence community, you got to understand, they are just people like us. They just have access to information that we don't, and they have to process it and then come up with a risk factor of like what happens if this is released, and you know what's the benefit, pros and cons, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all it is, and I think a lot of the intelligence community, what they do is they pump out a lot of these videos, kind of give you a soft introduction to it, but it's like some of it is some people will say it's real and some people will say it's not. What I kind of realized a long time ago when I was doing my own the research and stuff is people see things through a filter. So you can have two people look at exactly the same thing and they'll see it in completely different ways. And they might be very smart, they might be very, on the opposite end of the spectrum, but they will see things in completely different ways. And that's really our limitation of process, where it's also, when it comes to these debunkers and stuff, I actually think they're terrified. I think they're terrified of the subject, which is why they try their best to debunk it. I said to a number of these debunkers, come to 30 East Drive, spend a week there, see what you think. And they all refuse. They all talk, but none of them can walk. And I find that's pretty apparent.
It's a terrifying thing to like suddenly look out and see this guy staring at you. So we have these guys here who might be ultra terrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around for a lot longer than we have.
Mm-hmm.
They exist in physical space with us,
mm-hmm.
but they live where we don't live.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Under the ocean? In caves?
Well, from the configuration of their eyes, it looks like it's underground because they need a lot of light.
So they're down.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the deep underground bases. Okay. Because of these guys, they're peepers. I agree. Those things are huge.
Which actually matches because from the architecture of the Sphere network, it's actually ground-based. So the servers, the networks, the infrastructure is all based underground, on the ground, probably in mountains and so forth.
So they're like in the earth, in this space here. Okay. Now, this is interesting. That's where these sphere networks might be coming from. Like you said, like if they're underneath Skinwalker Ranch,
mm-hmm.
right? That might mean that there's something in between or underneath Skinwalker Ranch.
Correct. Yeah.
Like a base where these guys exist.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Now, these guys control these. They put them in.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Okay. It's a safe assumption, I think. Now, why don't these guys introduce themselves to us?
In the same way we don't really talk to primates.
So they're above us. They're smarter than we are.
I would say so, yeah.
Their habitat would probably, in my opinion, make them immune to a lot of the different climate changes and weird ice ages that we have on the surface, right?
Yeah.
So they could be that would help. I think a lot of people try to understand how advanced they are. Right? We restarted civilization something like 9,000 years ago. But before then, there was clearly other stuff around, right? So there's these moments and these pulses of society, civilization, and human progress that get stunted and stilted and crashed and then have to rebuild. While that's happening, if you lived under the ocean or underground far enough, you just wouldn't deal with those same resets. It would be completely different, right?
You'd be protected from the outside elements.
Constant temperature, right? Like no element, no comet, no ice age, no nothing. The sun can do whatever it wants to do, right? The sun can do whatever it wants to do. So these guys have been around for, maybe let's just say 100,000 years unbroken. So now they see us come in somewhere in history and then we're in the mix. But before we even get in the mix, they set this up before humans ever showed up. To protect themselves or to protect the earth or what?
Probably a bit of both. We're probably just on the sidelines.
Do they have an interest in us at all, or are we pests? Would their lives be better without us? What do you think about
Well, I think the reason why we're seeing so many V formations in the sky is because we've attracted the attention of others. We've been pumping electronic emissions into space for a long time. In a naive sort of innocence of it. But really, all it takes is for one group to have an interest in us that is not very helpful. And then they'll just come looking. So then this network will start intercepting those that have that interest, or a interest, or a negative kind of interest. Also, the fact is that we now have nuclear weapons. So if there is an aggressive group that comes this way, we're just going to start hitting those nukes quicker than anything. Now, the thing is that if we start using nuclear weapons on Earth, and they happen to live here as well, then it's going to affect them as much as it affects us. So,
there was an accident that occurred in the Pacific where they were testing nuclear bombs for a long time, and a fishing boat of some natives got hit with one, and it was a national scandal. So, people were poisoned. It was awful. And so they had to agree to do all of the nuclear testing underground. So they began to go underground, and then you'd see these no mushroom clouds, but you'd see this entire piece of earth cave in, depending on how deep they dug these things. They must have lit off hundreds of them underground. And this was in JFK's time. They had to do this. So,
but I also have a theory that if you detonate a nuclear weapon in our atmosphere, then it releases a huge magnetic pulse, which might disable the spheres in the upper atmosphere.
An EMP.
Yeah. So by default, that will do that. By what would then happen is that the outside groups would then have a hole they can poke through.
Well, then wouldn't the outside groups want to encourage us to use nukes in the atmosphere? Interesting. That's terrifying. So essentially this security network that might exist around Earth, right, with all these spheres around us. We blew up a couple high-altitude nuclear tests, and I remember they told us that we stopped doing that because the radiation got, really far out. That's what I heard, was that they blew up something over here, and the radiation, went all around, and they started to find the signatures, when they tested over there. So that was wild. But if they do that, then they down all of these, the network around here. Now,
or temporarily disable it, yeah.
And now these UFOs can just get in, and it's a whole thing. So you say these things learn and adapt if they're AI. So once that happened, then that alerted our guys over here to hey, no more nuclear bombs.
That would appear to be the case.
So now when we hear about these nuclear test sites being visited, right, when we hear about that, it's these guys.
Potentially, yeah.
Because they're disabling the nukes. They're not setting them off. Right.
Yeah,
if they ever started setting them off, then you'd think it must be some other guys, right? Because they'd want to disable this network.
Because it would affect them as well.
What do you think about Gary Nolan's other theories about like the religions of the world being started by these other NHIs, these aliens, about the basal ganglia being a place where people can interact, you know what I mean? Brain function. Have you ever heard about any of this other stuff? Are you interested in his other studies?
Not really. I mean, I don't actually follow Gary. But the thing is regarding religion, though. I mean, religion is the best control mechanism for human behavior. If you have a problem with your behavior of a population, the best thing is religion, because it will just put the fear of God into them, and they start behaving themselves. That said, I mean, these days religion is now fading away, so we need something to replace it.
Technology. That's something Gary said too, is that we don't believe in God anymore, but we believe in technology. So this idea of stuff coming up to replace it, I think is, I don't know, could be something to it. I'm going through your media on your Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
We got like, didn't notice these three before. Never noticed that. Isn't that interesting? You always look at the UFO. Oh, my bad. Hold on. Okay, there. Is it in there now?
Oh yeah. So this is interesting. So you have the V formation on the left, which is in a vertical configuration. Sorry, a horizontal configuration because it's pointing upwards, and then you have a disc to the right of that, which actually would match the formations.
Crazy.
The one on that one there, go there. Oh yeah, this is in these are the religious imagery. You've got well, I think that's the V formation in the sky. What we're seeing now, all over the world.
I'm curious about what the orientation of these orbs, if these are the type 1s, right?
These are type 1s in V formation, yeah.
Then it would almost be aiming directly at Jesus's face.
No, it would be aiming to the right. Top
oh,
right.
Over. Oh, okay. I see.
If you go up. Sorry. You go to the left. That one. So now and again, I do these diagrams. These are still images that are black and white, and I tell people what's going on. So the two bottom ones there, you have the type 2s that daisy chaining, and then you have the type 1s in the V formation.
Now these are above the clouds.
That's right.
So how many more type 2s do you think that are present that we can't see in between the clouds and the type 3s that are on the ground?
There might, well, from what I can tell, if I kind of put the distance of the type 3s apart, they generally are about 7 miles apart. So depending on how high this needs to go, maybe each one is about 8 miles, maybe the range. But I'm not sure. I mean, you need more information, but the behavior pattern matches. If you go to another one, there's multiple examples of this, by the way.
Same formation, dog. Like,
if you go there you go. So the top right one, you see the V formation surrounding the saucer, and that's in vertical configuration, so it's side on.
They're really close to that saucer, man.
Oh yeah, they get real close. The bottom one was taken through a telescope, where you have the V formation in horizontal configuration, where it's either actually above or below. So by the series, what they do is turn so they can target each one or below, and that's there you see one getting blown up. Which incidentally,
that's the actual. Oh, I remember this video.
Yeah. So if you think about this, right? So one of these gets blown up in our other atmosphere. All that debris, where do you think it's going?
In the ocean.
In the ocean. And what are they doing now with the mining the oceans?
So you're saying that they're going now, based on this information, these tips, they're going into the ocean.
I think I've made a lot of people very rich.
And they're getting metamaterials from these UFOs.
Yeah.
Anything that they can scavenge from these downed, invasive UFOs, that this security network shoots down and the debris just falls into the ocean. So they're down there just vacuuming it all up.
That's right.
I mean, they should also be like, there's the gifting fields, right? The Tim Taylor.
Thing. It's the same thing. It's just one's over land and one's over the ocean.
All right, Chupa, I have to head out, but this was awesome. Patrick, learned a bunch, and yeah, dude, like I said, Kirkpatrick validating your research, not many people could say that, right? And the fact that that happened, I just think means you're onto something, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for your time, anyway.
Absolutely. Thanks,
you.
Red.
All right, I'll catch you guys.
All right, man.
I'll give you more examples. Keep going. So there, the next one. If you go to the one on the right.
This guy here?
Up. No. Middle. That's it. So you've got three groups, three clusters of type 1s. You see in the V formations in three different directions.
Does that mean that there's three different objects?
Three targets, yeah.
Three targets. And can all of these be relayed to just a handful of type 2s?
In that case, there would be three of them.
Three type 2s.
Probably off to the other side, to the left there, but it's not in the image.
What terrifies me is that there's objects that they're targeting. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like it's weird to think that there's three different objects near here that these things have considered a threat that they're about to destroy.
Well, maybe they know stuff that we don't.
The way that these things can quantum tunnel and also bend light around themselves, one would assume that the craft that they're shooting down can have the same technology.
Potentially, yeah.
Do they ever encounter? What would happen in your opinion if they encountered something with a higher tech?
So this is interesting. So what happens is it's like our own stealth aircraft. A stealth aircraft can get inside a radar or inside a country to a point before detection. The only thing stealth can do is reduce its visibility. So the crafts that get down low to the ground are in fact more advanced than the others. So what they do is they will disable those ones. They will then get picked up and extracted out for reverse engineering and analysis. From what they learn from that, will then adapt the network and tighten it up.
So the technically advanced ones make their way closer to the planet's surface.
The closer ones, yeah, the ones we're seeing.
And then the ones that are particularly cunning actually can grab people.
Well, potentially.
What do you think about abductions? Is that what that is? Is that these other UFOs coming and grabbing people?
I think there's a lot of genetic extraction going on. It's just either passive or aggressive.
Genetic extraction from humans, particularly.
Yeah, I would say so. But I can show you more examples of this because the DNA stuff goes on. So there's another big subject. But
okay.
You go to. I'll show you some more examples of it. If you go down there, they go to the left there. We'll go up.
Sorry. Here?
Yeah, top left, that one, yeah. Here's another example. Here you got two type 2s. They're a microwave link down to the type 1 V formation. You see? So you go to another one. I'll give you another example. Go down. Yep. So these are all. This is my diagram, and this is all different. That is. I can't remember the location on the left one, but they're actually different images all combined together.
Sorry, I had a sneeze just then.
Again, you see the type 2 relay on the side, and then you have the type 1 V formation, which means the threat is to the right side. So next one.
I mean, this is like such a giveaway, right? Like
it's obvious. Here's this is the one off the. I think it was the Navy released.
This is the one where they were curious about if it was a pyramid-shaped craft or not. Okay.
What people don't know is what's underneath it.
Which
so again, you have the type 1 V formation there. You have the type 2 relay to the left.
Clear as day.
Next one, go to another one. There's that's just the analysis of it. Go to another one. Go down. Keep going down. Keep going down. Here's another one here. There you go. Same pattern. Close that. I'll show you another one.
Wow.
Go to the one to the left of that. There you go. There's another one. Type.
Okay, here you have the target.
Yeah, there you go.
Which looks pretty close to the camera.
Yeah.
It's an interesting shape.
Yeah. You got to remember, this is all happening at hypersonic speeds. This is ridiculous speed.
This shape is very intriguing. Now here, I would imagine the target would be to the left of these Type 1 spheres because the Type 2s are on the right. Here it kind of has like a loop effect, right? Like where...
Yeah, because they're chasing it. You see, they're chasing it. So it's like it's gonna be bouncing around all over the place. Go down another one. So actually, a real good. There's a good one to the left. Middle. Yeah, this is 1971. Before Photoshop and all that stuff.
Whoa.
You've got the Type 1s in horizontal configuration, Type 2 down below. It's a mountainous area, therefore the Type 2s will have to model over it. Or,
now, here we have Type 1s very low to the ground.
That's right.
Which would mean that the target has made it pretty low. At least between there and, like you say, like 7 miles.
Yeah.
It's out in this weird, what looks like a rural area.
Yeah, when it over areas of high topology, because it's a line of sight system, it has to work around it. So you'll see lots of Type 2s hovering just above the ridge lines. Not in this image, but here you just see one of them.
Yeah.
But you would see them actually daisy chaining across. The one in the middle is an air show. As I said, the air shows trigger the AI because it's an out of place observation. So
and here they're going to look and they're going to
triangle.
identify this as, they can probably scan the object, determine what's inside.
That's
if it's a person and the person seems to be flying it and they don't have nukes on them, it's a pass, right?
That's correct. And if you look at it, it's in the configuration is correct. The triangle's up on its side and the target is in the middle.
That's right.
Go to another one. Here's another one. So here's again, you've got the V formation at the base looking up. And actually, what I also noticed is that the crafts always look down at them to see what the hell's going on.
You're
So in this
determining
case,
the orientation of the craft, like it's looking down.
The craft is looking down at them, yeah. Here's another one.
Oh, this is weird. This is that was this one released by a model who was flying a plane?
That's right.
And was like, hey, there's something in the air. And everyone noticed this guy, but I never noticed these lights at all. So these guys are on it.
They are fast. But again, you see the craft looking down at them.
Happening at hypersonic speed.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
when
another
they
one down the bottom in the middle. One in the middle. There you go.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's another one. That was a video that was online. People thought it was fake, but actually, when you look close, you can see the spheres surrounding it.
So the spheres within an image or a video almost act for you as a confirmation that something was there.
Yeah, because no one knew about them.
Yeah, it's a feature no one would think to fake or put in their video.
So look at the one in the middle, to the left, the right there. Oh, that's another one. That was over in New York, I think. Oh no, that one was when the shuttle was trying to land, and they couldn't land because of the Type 1s were in the way.
Really?
Hmm.
My God. Everywhere.
Actually, if you look in the...
This is the jellyfish UFO?
One. Yeah. And you notice that the spheres are above it.
These guys look like small guys, or is this jellyfish UFO pretty big?
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Wow. They're everywhere.
Actually, the one, if you go up, yeah.
Sorry.
If you go to the green one, the green picture, that one, you see this is a close-up of the Type 2s relaying over a hill or a mountain. One there on the left and one on the right.
Like right here?
There you go.
See these things everywhere.
Here's some more examples. There you go. If you go up to that one, you'll see how it matches with my diagram.
Wow. There's this one video, I forget where it was filmed, but there's like all these white, what looked like just a swarm of white orbs flying around. It was debunked, later determined to be like birds, but I'm not sure if that's the case. But so many of these sightings of these swarms of orbs, whether they be metallic or not.
If you go up again, sorry, go up to the right. That one there on the left. Down, that one. There you go. You got the same pattern again. So your Type 2s, two of them relaying, and then it goes to Type 1 V formation.
Do you have guesses on how they're communicating with one another?
Yeah, that's the line of communication. And the thing is, the reason why they use the Type 3s as well, because we're in buildings, is the signal redirect allows stealth. In the same way as like if you're flying a stealth drone over, say, Iraq or something, we would signal to the satellite above, and then it redirects to the Pentagon. But in this case, it's because the threat is from space, it redirects it to the ground. So from above, from say 100 or 50 or 100,000 feet, they can't detect the Type 3s in the building, so they can't detect the network. It all blends in with background radiation.
Do they prefer buildings to hide in around people, or is there like can they hide like in trees? Do they have to be in a building? What's going on with it? What's going on there?
Well, no, they use buildings to shield the emissions, so they try to remain undetectable. So, but they do use holes in the ground as well. In fact, I think at Skinwalker, when Travis he opened there's a hole in the ground and he got a radiation burst. That's because there's a Type 3 in the ground in the hole.
They've said such things too. They're like, hey, something's in the ground. They didn't want to dig. I want to find this recent video you posted that we ended up posting as well from Bend, Oregon. Or here's just another one. This one's very interesting. I'll try to find that video. But it was so exactly.
But this just carries on forever. I mean, I can do this all day. You know, if you go, yeah, there you go. That's another one. Again, you've got the Type 2s, daisy chaining down. Then you got the Type 1 V formation at the top. So I think it's pretty conclusive, don't you?
Yeah, it's strangely conclusive.
This one's over Israel.
It's one of those things where I'm just glad we're talking. I'm glad we're introducing our audience to you and your work. I think it's going to become more and more important because the examples you're able to pull, and I've said this before, every time I talk about you, I always say, listen, this guy has examples that go back years. And like you said, you could do this all day.
I can do this all day.
It's a phenomenon that no one's drawn attention to yet. that not only confirms, like, for me, it checks off all the boxes. You got ultra terrestrials, you got the elongated skull mummy guys from Peru, right? You have the system of orbs, which it's a defense system. You have the genetic reasons, right? We need genetic diversity and all this other weird stuff that we don't know what's valuable out in space. We really don't. But the existence of this network also confirms, by its nature, the existence of multiple and an infinite amount of UFOs, species, beings, non-human intelligences that are coming here. It explains why they get shot down. If they're so intelligent, how are they crashing? Why are they crashing? Right? It explains
the network. The sphere network explains three major things. One being the Fermi paradox. Second being poltergeist activity, and the third potentially is spontaneous human combustion.
That one's an interesting one that you rope in on this, the spontaneous human, because I mean, you know, it makes sense. It's one of the only sources that you can say is of radiation that would exist in a house that would be that intense. Yeah. Now, would they be killing a person on purpose, or they be like it was an accident?
Just if you're in the way. If you're in the way, it's actually that from what I know. There's only been a couple of hundred instances of it in the world. So it almost looks like there was some sort of update that went out and then it was retracted.
And that was happening a lot, like when? Like the early 1900s?
I have to check. My brain is tired at the moment. So
I've seen a lot of photos, of black and white photos of like heels, you know what I mean, on a chair that like just burned through. Like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, like, Patrick, this is honestly riveting stuff. I can't believe that you've identified this and that it's been confirmed by a lot of the higher ups of academic ufology. So I'm looking at all these examples. I'm seeing something here. Since the first time we talked, I knew you were onto something. And now being able to like look and even passively for these patterns and seeing them, you know what I mean? And then now, I mean, having all this stuff, it's kind of undeniable. Chat, what do you guys think about this? Is this the missing link of ufology? Is this the thing that we needed? For me, I think so. It also incorporates AI, right? And it's basically like it's a targeting system. It's figuratively and literally pointing us in the right direction of what these flying saucers may be, right? I think it checks off all the boxes I need to call it an official mainstream theory that just hasn't caught mainstream attention yet. Why? Because it's not the alien guys flying these saucers. It's not the aliens landing on the front lawn. It actually kind of lowers us down in the food chain too, because it introduces technology we can't control with beings who might actually control us because they're way ahead. We have no defenses over the things that Patrick has said these guys might be doing. If they're quantum tunneling, if they are moving through physical space at breakneck speed that we can't even detect, then we're not shooting them, we're not exposing them, And if they're down in the ground, down in there underneath the earth, right? If that's where they live, then they've been protected for a long time. So for some reason, my camera has turned off. All right, well, we'll just go cameraless. But Patrick, amazing work. I would love to help you with any graphics and all this stuff. I think this is something I'm going to keep my eye on for sure. It's actually the reason why I paid attention to the MH370 videos. It's because I was like, holy shit, this looks like the thing. It looks just like it. But like you said, behaves in a different way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This system here makes a lot of sense. I'm actually glad we were able to kind of map this out and draw it out because I was lost.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
Especially if you're not technically minded. It's a tough one to swallow. But I think, I can break it down to make it simple in many ways.
Well, you did, and we appreciate you for it. Is there anything else you want to go over?
Only that if you what we're really seeing is a technology disclosure. You're not going to get ET or UT sort of standing there being interviewed, but what you will see is a technology disclosure saying this stuff isn't ours and it's doing something. That's what you're going to see. And the more you understand, because what I'm talking about, the spheres are really just the tip of the iceberg, and I've actually worked out a lot more and what's going on than I actually publicize. It's just that I'm trying to do it in steps, because the spheres actually are the main underlining architecture, but there's an awful lot going on around it. Yeah, I'm just happy that people are starting to understand it and notice it, because the truth is that the V formation is going to keep on turning up, and there's going to be more and more videos of it every week. It's going to become daily, sooner or later, and you've got to understand what it is.
Is it increasing because people are noticing it, or activity is increasing?
I think it's both.
Could solar flares, if you say EMP could knock out the network, could a solar flare, a sufficiently strong enough solar flare, to have the same effect?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No, but I don't know. I mean, I've done all this with literally my own basic budget kind of thing. If I had the budget of some people, I could rinse this inside out in probably a couple of years. But what I kind of realized is that how it appears to be anyway in mainstream media or is that you can speculate all you like, but you can't prove anything. And I think that's been the policy for a long time.
Right.
Because I've been contacting people for years, and I've shown them what I've shown you tonight, and they say, "Oh yeah, you're right," but nothing changes. They don't contact me ever again.
Strange. Like what I want to do with Skyfire News and this information, I want to get the tech you're using, the app you've created. I want to try to identify, find, research, locate. I want to beckon these things. I want to do whatever you did, whatever Sean Kirk Fact Trick did. I want to do that. I want to do that on camera. I want to, document the experience. I want to reveal everything I found. I want to show it without any filter. I want people to be able to see it. I don't necessarily want to live stream it, but I do want to record this. It's just I think that's the best thing I can do for the show, the audience, and honestly for the theory of yours, is to try to put it to the test. The results that are reported are crazy. They're really, really out of this world. So yeah, that would be really, really great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that anyone wants to try it and film it and do what they want. It just proves that I'm right, and I've been right about this for a long time.
The interesting thing about your theory is it's so multi-layered. You have, obviously the sphere network, which is its own complexity. There's, but you've been able to identify that not through channeling or through seances, but literally by looking at all the evidence and looking, okay, these guys are constantly around UFOs in a specific formation. These guys are in between, and these guys are spotted in houses. What's going on? How is that happening? Relating it to our tech is very interesting. I love that, because it just makes the most amount of sense. And and it's never mixed up. Like, you never see a type 1 floating around a type 3 floating around a type 1, suddenly doing the targeting, sitting in because one of the type 1s was sick or something. Like, very interesting. The system works. The pattern is there, and it's very consistent. And then you have this guy. It's a different tier. It's a different level of your theory that, confirms it, but almost to a degree where you're like, okay, show me the bodies. But you can actually show people the images of them using what you have. The strobe light. We're going to test all that stuff out, man. I want to see this if it's there. And if it's as accessible as you say, right, in terms of getting those images, the whole world's going to see those. Because we won't stop talking about it. Like, I think this is very important theory you got. And Patrick, I can't thank you enough. Is there any other thing that we should take away from this tonight?
I need to really just to share this interview, to spread the news. Really, that's all you can do.
Okay, good. All right, guys, you heard him out there, right? Share this. If you're on Twitter right now, if on X, pop over, give Patrick a follow, retweet this out. We're gonna pop out a edited version of this, just to gonna go over all these little notes and everything, and just try to see what we can do. Patrick, we should definitely do another Spaces soon. Those are always popular. Those always get going. But for now, man, thank you so much for popping in, and I just can't wait to talk to you again.
Yep, no worries. Been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. All right, everybody. That's the show. My camera crapped out at the end. It does it literally every time. You love technology. I hope my drawings weren't too scary or crazy. Pretty funny stuff over here with these drawings. But I had to kind of map it out. I'm really, I'm just that guy. How does this work? I feel like we kind of cracked it, right? I know how it works now. I feel like I know what Patrick knows. I'm going to help him when I can, how I can, get more visuals out, more examples out. The evidence is mounting. It keeps on coming. The video from Bend, if you haven't seen it, go to Skyfire. Go to Skyfire on Twitter. Follow us, and also check out our media. You'll find that video. And all of the videos that Patrick shared today. All the evidence. I hope you guys were convinced. Obviously I am. We'll see you guys out there in the Twitter sphere and on YouTube. Thanks again. I want to thank Patrick again for joining us. Thank Red Panda for being in the mix. Guys, this was Patrick Jackson's UFO Sphere Network. Until next time, peace.